50 billion IoT devices by 2020. How will we secure them all? I'm Tonya Hall for ZDNet and Tech Republic, and joining me is Chris Rouland. He is the founder and CEO of Phosphorus Cybersecurity. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Tonya.
What does Phosphorus do, and what brought you to found the company?
So Phosphorus is solving the problem of keeping IoT devices up to date and secure. IoT devices today, for the most part, are Linux servers wrapped in pretty plastic or pretty metal, but they're not treated like servers. And so the basic security rules in an enterprise or a small, medium business or even consumer aren't necessarily applied to them, and we're trying to make that easier. I came to the problem because I'm truly obsessed with IoT, and to me, from a security perspective, IoT looks like cybersecurity did in the early to mid 1990s. A lot of opportunity for improvement.
So let's drill down on that a little bit. Give us some of the background on IoT security risks. Just how many IoT devices are there out there with no ability to patch firmware?
Well, so two big questions. One is how many devices are out there? I don't think anybody has the exact number today. It's certainly more than people. So the IoT population has definitely eclipsed the human population, probably by several times. The numbers are dialing in for 2020. They've been up from 20 billion to about 50 billion is the estimated number of devices that we'll see online in 2020. And if you compare that to when really internet security companies started in earnest, going public in the 90s, like in 1998, the company I was with Internet Security Systems, went public. There were 1 million computers on the internet. So we're going from 1 million to 50 billion problems. So IoT security devices some of them have great security, some of them have terrible security. On the high end, if you look at companies like Apple, Amazon, and Google, so those are three companies that know cloud computing, they know security well, and they've got a pretty good ecosystem for keeping their devices secured. They can have missteps, and certainly having that type of market share makes them a target, like Microsoft was a target in the 90s, and they still are a target. If you have market dominance, hackers are going to be going after your products. That's not the bulk of the IoT world, though. The bulk of the IoT world are all these other little small machines that are basically small machine computers. And they're your TP-Links or your D-Links or your Philips Hues, your Rokus. These are the devices that we see plugged in building this mesh of IoT systems. And in enterprises, it's your Johnson controls or your Siemens or your GE controllers. And across the board, I see no strategy for keeping these technologies secure and up to date. Microsoft Windows has had auto update built in for nearly 20 years, but it doesn't work in the enterprise, right? That's why we've got big successful companies like BigFix and Tanium out there solving that problem. The challenge in the world of IoT, and this is the one we got creative to build and spent the last year and a half pretty much head down solving it, is how do you secure an endpoint, being an IoT device, without running an agent on the endpoint? And that's where it gets tricky, and that's the innovation that we've developed, is that we can in fact secure and keep these devices up to date without having to install an agent.
How prepared is the typical business, hospital, or factory for an IoT-focused cyber attack?
So big enterprises are losing sleep over IoT security. Small, medium businesses and consumers, it's kind of embarrassing that the last botnet, the advice from the FBI was unplug your router. I mean, that's a pretty poor state of affairs when the FBI is telling individuals to unplug their routers. And so that's pretty unprepared. The part of it is there's not a good tool chain out there. It's not like endpoint security. If you go to the RSA show or Black Hat, you'll stumble into an endpoint security every 5 feet. There are a lot of choices there. There are a lot of choices for firewalls. There are a lot of choices for bot walls. There are not a lot of choices for IoT security solutions. I do think, though, the rapid growth, innovation, and investment in IoT as a whole will drive innovation and entrepreneurs like me to build IoT security startups. We do see some of the bigger companies kind of stamping IoT on their firewall or their scanners, and that's more marketing than it is actual technology, and really having a team totally focused on the security of embedded systems, the nuances, and dealing with devices that sometimes come out of the box infected.
Is there a way to tell if a mission critical IoT device has already been compromised?
Well, it depends on what technology you're running. A lot of IoT devices today are really deployed by shadow IT. And so the last time I've seen this evident was in the early 2000s, when I would be talking to a CIO and I would ask what their wireless security policy is. And they said, well, we don't have any Wi-Fi except for the one under my desk. So IoT is proliferating, according to chaos theory. Like, it's just going to get in there. And, the security guys will go around the CIO to put up new cameras. And oddly enough, in that oxymoron, the cameras are the security problem themselves. Security cameras are little embedded Linux computers that physical security guys, they're not used to having to be Linux system administrators, right? They're used to does it pan? Does it tilt? Does it zoom? Does it swivel? Cool. It's got Linux on it. I don't know what that is. I don't care. It needs an update, whoa. And now if you don't update it, it's going to be a part of a botnet in a few minutes. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And on the flip side, I always get asked the question from the civilian, who wants to hack into my light bulb? Who wants to turn the lights off? Who wants to hack in my refrigerator? Really, nobody does. It's a pivot. It's a nice soft point on your network that's probably insecure. It may use UPnP to open ports on your firewall that you don't know about, and allow an attacker to enter it, install an implant or a backdoor on the firmware, and then get into your Bitcoin wallet, your Chase account, you name it, you're owned. Or in an enterprise, where the newer botnets we're seeing, specifically Torai, named because it emerged from the Tor network. So effectively the first IoT botnet that's kind of come out of the dark web, literally, is totally designed for data exfiltration. It doesn't do any of the basic stuff we see with traditional botnets like cryptocurrency mining or denial of service rentals. It doesn't do any of that stuff. It's designed to steal data and do it quietly through the dark web. And a lot of obfuscation on the creators, right? They strip the binaries to make sure you didn't know when it was compiled or by who. So a lot of evasion pointing at real pros or potentially nation states to create, very quickly going from annoying botnets like Mirai. Well, Jack Dorsey might not think Mirai was boring because it took down Twitter for a day with a bunch of DVRs and security cameras. But the newer stuff is more sophisticated and the kind of hokey, I'm going to turn your toaster into a Bitcoin miner, I'm going to use it as a pivot to hack your whole organization. That's reality now.
How do you go about securing a multitude of different devices from a multitude of different manufacturers with a common platform?
Well, if you like playing with toys, you should connect with us because we have a Noah's Ark of gadgets. I have the best job in the world. I have to have 2 of every popular gadget. It's my job. I got to have them. I got to make sure they're secure. So if that sounds cool, you should talk to me, because that's what we're doing. So we have this Noah's Ark of two of every of the most popular IoT devices. Now, what are the most popular IoT devices? You have to check the wind a bit. But there are several sources for what the top 100 are, and it's a moving target. We use that to prioritize them. And we think we have about the top 200 most important IoT devices covered at this point, which probably represents about 80% of the market penetration. That's kind of about where you want to be for a startup at this phase. And number one is the most important are devices that are actively being exploited. So that could be Ubiquiti, for instance. Their routers get beat up quite a bit. Netgear routers, Linksys routers, et cetera. Other IoT devices, I usually, for instance, around Black Hat and DEF CON, I coordinate with the organizers to get the list ahead of time of what's going to be in the IoT village to make sure we have security coverage before they get hacked. So anything that's a victim or has a high-ranking CVE or CVSS score, we're going to put that top of the list. So beyond active exploitations, market penetration, new products, and then kind of grinding through. As we're in beta now, we'll have customers submit devices that we didn't know about, and so that those kind of make it their way to the top of the list. And this is, I think, longer term, IoT security represents a challenge we haven't seen in the cybersecurity industry, because while we were able to automate virus analysis, right, there's no way humans could keep up with the new number of malware samples every day. In a few years, there'll be no way that we can keep up with the number of devices that come out every day. And so the only way to deal with that is really through crowdsourcing the problem. And so we have some innovative thoughts around crowdsourcing IoT security in a similar fashion to the way companies like BugCrowd very successfully crowdsourced vulnerability research and analysis by putting bounties out. And I'd like to see something similar really across the board in cybersecurity, not just for IoT. Is, how do you take the successful model of crowdsourcing vulnerability research, which is challenging because it's not deterministic, to something that is deterministic, like give me an update signature for a TP-Link Model 102 smart plug.
Chris Rouland, founder and CEO of Phosphorus Cybersecurity. You've got some mobile apps coming soon. Where can people find them, and how can they connect with you?
LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me. It's LinkedIn, Chris_Rouland, and we'll create a link for this program, phosphorus.io/ZDNet. We'll have links to our Android and iOS applications. These are really kind of pocket editions that are companions to our enterprise tool that we're building and rolling out pilots for now. But we'd love you to try them out and get your feedback, and they'll be generally available in the fourth quarter of 2018.
Thanks again. And then you can find me right here on ZDNet or Tech Republic, or my website, tonyahall.net. Thanks for watching.